Imagine for a second that you finally get it. That promotion you've been chasing for 3 years, the one that puts you into the six-figure bracket. You see the number on the screen, you feel the rush, and for 48 hours you think, this changes everything. No more stress, no more checking the balance before you tap your card. But 6 months later, you're sitting at your kitchen table at 11 p.m. staring at your banking app. You're just as stressed as you were when you made half this much. Your savings haven't moved. The buffer you promised yourself is gone. In fact, if you lost your job tomorrow, you'd be in a panic within 30 days. You're making more than ever, but you feel broke. If that's you, take a deep breath. You're not bad with money. You've just walked into a very specific, very sophisticated psychological trap. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just someone who became obsessed with understanding why smart, hardworking people stay so stressed about money. And I'm here to walk you through what I call the rich but broke paradox. What we're doing today is dismantling the invisible forces that make your raises disappear, so you can stop running on the treadmill and start building a life that actually feels as good as it looks on paper. The first thing we have to understand is a concept called Parkinson's Law. It states that work expands to fill the time available for its completion. If you give yourself a week to write a report, it takes a week. But there's a financial version of this law that is quietly ruining lives. Expenses rise to meet income. It's an almost physical force. When you get a 10% raise, you don't consciously decide to waste it, you just relax your guard. You buy the good coffee. You eye a slightly better apartment. You aren't being reckless, you're just breathing. But because your guard is down, your lifestyle expands until it hits the ceiling of your new paycheck. The gap between what you make and what you spend, the only part of your money that actually creates freedom, stays at zero. In the book The Millionaire Next Door, the authors distinguish between income affluent and balance sheet affluent. Most people focus on being income affluent. They look like the high-earning surgeon making $500,000 a year who lives in the right neighborhood and drives the right European SUV. But because their overhead is so high, their actual net worth is often lower than the person who owns a local landscaping business and drives a 10-year-old Ford. Wealth isn't what you earn, it's what you keep. A janitor making $50,000 who manages to keep $5,000 is objectively moving toward freedom faster than a doctor making $700,000 who spends $701,000. One is building a foundation, the other is financially trapped by their own overhead. Why do we do this? It's usually the Diderot effect. The philosopher Denis Diderot lived most of his life in poverty until he received a large sum of money and bought a beautiful scarlet silk dressing gown. It was stunning. But then he sat in his old straw chair and it looked wrong. It didn't match the gown. So he bought a leather chair. Then his old table looked out of place, so he bought a marble one. He ended up in debt because of one noble item. We do this every time we buy a nicer house and suddenly realize our old furniture looks like junk. We aren't just upgrading our stuff, we're trying to upgrade our identity to match a new item. It's a spiral of consumption driven by a need for consistency. Underneath that is status anxiety. We measure ourselves by our nearest neighbors. If your brother-in-law gets a Tesla, your functional Honda suddenly feels like a sign of failure. We don't want to be rich, we want to be better than the people around us. Our necessity for income rises right along with the income itself. It's the hedonic treadmill. You run faster, you earn more, but your security stays the same because your expectations shifted. So how do we break this cycle? It starts with a tactical audit. A tactical audit is simple. You track exactly what it costs to run your life. We need to stop looking at income as success and start looking at your burn rate. I once worked with a guy who doubled his income in 2 years, but still couldn't sleep because his burn rate had doubled too. He was twice as successful on paper, but twice as fragile in reality. I want you to think about million-dollar choices. Think about a small, habitual expense, say $250 a month on something you don't even really enjoy. If you invested that $250 a month into a basic index fund with a conservative 7% annual return, after 40 years, that small habit has a total value of over $600,000. If you scale that to larger lifestyle inflations, you are literally looking at a multi-million-dollar difference over a career. The math isn't meant to judge you, it's meant to show you the weight of your choices. Here is the playbook for reclaiming your peace of mind. First, automate the gap. The moment you get a raise, set up an automatic transfer for at least half of that increase to go to savings or investments before it ever hits your checking account. If you never feel the money, Parkinson's law can't claim it. Second, beware the noble purchase. When you buy something high-end, ask yourself if you're about to replace 5 other things just to match the vibe of the new one. Be okay with the tawdry chair. Third, redefine status. This is the hardest part. Train yourself to find status in tranquility rather than things. There is a deep, quiet power in being the person in the room with the oldest phone but the biggest brokerage account. Wealth isn't the ability to buy stuff. Wealth is the ability to say no to things you don't want to do. It's the ability to sleep through the night because a $2,000 emergency wouldn't even register as a crisis. The system is designed to keep you spending. Every ad and social media feed is a machine designed to turn your labor into someone else's profit. It's okay if you've fallen for it, but the way out isn't working harder to earn more. It's deciding that you have enough. Freeze your lifestyle for 1 year. Let your income grow, but keep your expenses exactly where they are. Watch what happens to your stress levels when that gap finally starts to grow. Progress beats perfection every single time. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What was the scarlet dressing gown in your life? That one purchase that triggered a spiral of spending you didn't see coming? Let's talk about it.